right, welcome everyone. Wednesday night in the garage, a little cold here on Ham Radio TV. I've got a very special guest. You might have guessed who this is as the thumbnail there. I've got Jim here. Jim, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jim Siemens, W6LK. I'm the ARRL section manager for the East Bay section.
Awesome. And, it was quite a cool coincidence earlier this kind of evening for me was K5ATA, if you're familiar with Good Game Ham Radio and Outdoor, another YouTuber. And he was just interviewing David Minster, who is the newer CEO of the league, of the ARRL. So not planned, but very coincidental that we're both chatting with some ARRL leadership tonight. So that's kind of exciting. Tonight we'll be, mostly looking at the league and some of the benefits. If you're not a member, we're going to kind of go over some, great reasons why to become a member, and just kind of share what Jim has went through as far as, in life choices, career, and then how he got involved with the league. So as he mentioned, he is our section manager. Now, in some states, the section manager covers the entire state, but here in California, we are divided up 9 different times in different sections. And I did a little research on this. So here I'm in the East Bay. So in other words, when there's a contest that's going on, and it's an ARRL contest, I'll give my section, which is Echo Bravo East Bay. And so here, what that's made up of is 4 counties. That's Alameda, Napa, Contra Costa County, and Solano. Personally, I'm here in Solano. And the total hams, and some of these numbers I'm just kind of averaging. The total hams is 13,000 hams Jim here is responsible for. So it's a quite a spread. I ran a few other numbers that there is 33 other states individually that we have more hams in our section than 33 other states individually, not combined or anything like that. So Jim, how do you keep track of 13,000 hams?
Well, I don't visit each of them every day, for starters, but there's 2 ways to it. Is that they can reach out to me, but what I think is the best way is to try and support the clubs within the section. So we have a finite number of clubs. We don't have an enormous number like 13,000 clubs. We have 20 clubs. And so managing 20 clubs or visiting 20 clubs or Zooming with them nowadays, or being supportive of 20 clubs is much more manageable. Although I'm always looking to increase that number, because I want to have as much outreach to hams as possible. And clubs are probably the best way of outreaching to hams. So what do? I support the clubs, encourage the hams to go there. However, that is only one part of being a section manager. Section manager also has to do with the emergency communications. That's a big aspect. ARRL's program. I don't directly oversee at all volunteer examinations, but the ARRL wants me to keep an eye on that to a certain extent, make sure that that's being handled properly. We used to have the folks that would go out and listen to different frequencies, the OO program, and that was under the section manager. But now the OO program has been sunset, and now they have volunteer monitors, and they report directly to the ARRL.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Is that program rolled out, or is it still kind of getting going?
It absolutely is. It's a tremendous program. The person who oversees it, actually, I guess he's an employee for the ARRL, is Riley Hollingsworth, who's kind of a famous name in amateur radio as far as enforcement, because he worked for the FCC in charge of enforcement of the amateur bands, and he did that for years and years. And Riley then retired and was just a great person and whatnot. Then he got involved a little bit with the politics with the ARRL, and then the FCC came out and said, listen, we want you to kind of change how you're doing looking at the ham bands and how enforcement is done. Still, hams ourselves are not the cops of the bands. Mm-hmm. We definitely observe, we report, we monitor, we try to educate, we Elmer, right? Because in most cases, when somebody's doing something wrong on the bands, it's not really even intentional. You know, they sat on their HT and the mic was open. They don't need to get written up for that necessarily, but if you can help Elmer them through some of these issues, or they're out of band, you know, they're a technician and they're operating on 80 meters, that might be a problem, and you might need to educate them. So it may be a one and done situation. Anyway,
yeah, that's actually kind of interesting. So, you know, out here, I know we've been in contact over the summer. We definitely had some very interesting people, some operators that acquired, I'm guessing a very common noise we heard was that Bofang whistle when you hit the emergency button. And so the new program, the new observers, are they out there in the public? Meaning, is there a way for us to contact them via email and kind of report something you heard so then they can turn their attention to? Is there anything like that going on? Or
you cannot directly contact the VMs. However, you absolutely can contact the ARRL.
Okay.
Contact Riley all day long and send him emails. You call him up on the phone, and he's very responsive, and he will talk to him. And so they do that on purpose. They want to kind of insulate them and not.
Nobody knows who they are.
No one knows who they are.
Perfect.
No one knows who they are.
That makes sense.
And that's yeah. So that's kind of thing. And for example, they have sent out more good guy and good gal cards saying you Elmered somebody on the air that was having some challenges. Yeah. And I heard that, and that was a good thing. So that gets written up, sent back to Newington, Connecticut. The folks in Newington then type up a card and then send that out to that operator saying, you did a great job. So it isn't all like slap on the hand, like you're doing this all wrong. There's a lot of support and encouragement. And the FCC themselves actually said, we want more good letters going out than bad letters, which was interesting that they would even care. Yeah. But they did. But they do.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's really good. I mean, I know a handful of us out here in the East Bay, we were getting quite frustrated, you know, with some of that nonsense and you know, kind of, we call them jammers. And anyways, okay, well, very cool.
Jammers is a big topic. We could talk about that all night. And that's an issue that's been besetting people all across this country.
Yeah.
You know, and things have actually changed at the FCC. I don't know if this is way off topic and maybe you don't want to talk about that.
No, you know, I think it's very relevant to, you know, a handful of people that are watching, at least in my area. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, there was the FCC had so they actually have some way of adjudicating things. So the FCC used to be filled with a lot of engineers. Now there's not so many engineers. There's some, but not so many. What they have a lot of, though, is attorneys. So they're phenomenal at writing up nasty letters and that kind of thing. But if you send somebody a nasty letter and they don't comply, now what? What are you going to do?
Right.
So the agency actually has an administrative law court within it. And so this is like a third party that gets hired. It kind of works for the FCC, but kind of doesn't. They're independent.
Okay.
And they're a judge. Well, the deal is that the person who held that position, I don't know, for about 20 years, really wasn't getting the job done. He was moving at a snail's pace. and cases would linger for decades, literally decades, and he would just kind of waffle back and forth as to what he wanted to do. And the deal is that the FCC had no power to do anything with this guy whatsoever. Anyway, he retired out. So they got a new person in, and the person's like doing a normal job. You know, mm-hmm. They're not overworking, but they're not underworking either. So the FCC does bring cases to them, and they do get tried there, and that's kind of the first layer of court. And if it rises above that, then it actually gets turned over to the Justice Department, and then it becomes a big federal case if that's what's required. Generally, for amateur radio, it's not being turned into a federal case. But if you're talking about two cell phone companies that are, you know, beating up each other, then that would rise to a level of a giant federal case, and so on. And those cases do, but they all start out at the administrative law judge within the FCC, which is kind of interesting.
Interesting. I had a small visitor in the shack there for a second. Yeah, so you know that's good. You know, I think you obviously need checks and balances with that. And one gentleman in the chat here is asking, I think, let's see here. I wanted to keep track a little bit with some questions, but so Richard here, KD2QXQ, he's having trouble changing his call sign now that I'm an extra. I've tried several times to contact the FCC. Any suggestions? And one thing that, from what I understand, and then I'd like to hear from you, Jim, is being an ARRL member, the application is through the league, the website, and they handle that for free. Is that correct?
That's true. Yeah.
So that is one, you know, kind of perk and benefit about that. I know there's other avenues as well. So yeah, check into that. I know of a few people that are scurrying to change call signs right now in the event they're opposing talking about bringing a higher fee.
Yes.
But I think that's probably a year or two out, right? I mean, that's right now just in a conversation phase.
I think it's going to be more than a conversation phase.
Okay.
I really do. So this was an interesting thing. Richard, I'm sorry you're having some challenges. The FCC, you shouldn't have to call a human there. In fact, it generally works against you to call anyone at the FCC. Yeah. Here's the other thing. The FCC, it's really interesting. They have this brand new building they just moved to, but they haven't even really occupied it yet. So they're making all their employees work from home. And I don't think the FCC is nearly as productive with their employees working from home as when they're actually, you know, domiciled all together in a building, and you know they can walk across the hall and say, "Hey, Nancy, what's the deal with this? Hey, Ted, what's going on with this?" They can collaborate more and get things resolved. So I would try to rely on the electronic filing as much as possible if you're going through the FCC. But if you're an ARRL member, by all means, utilize the ARRL system and through Maria Soma at the ARRL. That's fantastic. That's a benefit of perk of membership.
Yeah, I noticed that as I was kind of collecting some information tonight. A little bit of noise possibly as a garage door is opening. I'm in my garage. Wife is coming home.
I was looking out here thinking, is coming in my shop?
Kids coming home from soccer. You know, we ham radio guys. We got a lot of things.
Awesome.
Yeah, a lot of things going on. A bit of history. You know, the ARRL is a national association for amateur radio, and it was founded in. Well, let me ask people in the chat if they can put that down. What year was the league founded in the chat? And by a name of Hiram Piercy Maxim as the American Relay League. So I think that's pretty cool. And, you know, it's pretty an obscured kind of question. But 1914, so that's how long back the league put things together. And I think it's really important to have something as large as a national league. You know, I spent some time four-wheeling, and I had a local club, and then California has a state club, and that's very important for keeping our trails open, having the right people to wear nice suits, go into different offices or different in front of different judges to keep our bands open. With that. And another thing too is, I kind of also wanted to share a little bit of a bragging point, but within ARRL, obviously you can be in that by yourself, but I feel like you get so much more out of the hobby when you can find a great group of people. And a lot of times this group of people will probably be a league sanctioned club, such as ours. So I'm here, Solano County. And recently we got a very cool award. I got it here in this frame. So Jim awarded this last meeting for being a special service club. The last meeting, as in the radio club meeting. And we also got a very cool prize from the league, which I almost want to open and tell my club members that it didn't come with cellophane. I want to start taking pictures of these pages. So how cool is that? An antenna book.
Yeah.
Because I love building antennas, so that's really exciting.
Yeah, that's a gift of your section manager.
Yeah, thank you. So obviously it supports the growth of amateur radio in so many different ways. It has a lot of education. It has a lot of materials like this antenna book. We talked about upgrading your license. When you think about finding where to take your test, traditionally you're on the ARRL. And me personally, it took I think 2 years. I was licensed as a tech for 2 years, and I got all the mailers, and I just wasn't convinced. Why do I need to join? And the more I got involved, and then when I got my general and started contesting, it really became apparent what the league is doing. One of them is holding some great contests out there for us. Let's see here. You do get 2 magazines. If you're not a member, you get magazines. You get one or the other. You get either a QST or you get the new on the air. They also will handle your QSL services internationally. Now, this is something I haven't taken advantage of because I'm using Logbook of the World, which is through ARRL. Logbook of the World is a software that's on the internet, and you log your contact. In most cases, you're going to use a third-party logging software. You log your contact and then upload to Logbook of the World, and the other station is going to do the same thing. And what Logbook of the World will do is it will look at your 2 contacts and verify time, frequency, all of the details, and then give you that official contact. And, going for work all states or DXCC, work all countries, I think that's extremely cool. That's really what pushed me over the edge. It was like collecting baseball cards, just grabbing all these call signs, even running FT8. I've been doing a lot of FT8ing lately, and all that goes through Logbook of the World.
Logbook of the World, I think it started out maybe with a little bit of a rocky start, I would say. I hope that's not unkind to say, but it has become so incredibly valuable to all of us hams to be able to log, put everything up in there, and it's amazing. I remember when they kind of first rolled out, I had a few friends, old time hams, who kept electronic logbooks for sure, but it was, they would sign up for just this and just that and whatnot, but they weren't really pursuing. Anyway, they did a big core dump of all their logs that they've ever done onto it. And all of a sudden, when it go bing, ding, 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 you won all these other things if you want. It's pretty cool. So Logbook of the World is really become awesome. Don't forget QST magazine. I think for just the price of the membership, the subscription to QST magazine is pretty awesome. And if you don't want QST, you have On the Air magazine, which is it's generally geared towards newer ham, but a lot of older hams actually enjoy it more. They get a little freaked out by all the schematic diagrams and things like that, and it's a little more friendly that way. And as a member, electronically, you get both. So you could subscribe to one or the other in a hard copy form, and you get both electronically. Right. I love my copy of QST every month.
Yeah, absolutely. And I brought up another page. I wanted to show a little bit more about collecting call signs. I know it sounds weird, and if you haven't tried it or you're not into it, bear with me for a second. But this here is QRZ, another very popular website. So on here, we'll show you. To the right, I'm actually looking here. It gives you awards. And what you can do is you can go here to My Logbook. And from Logbook of the World, now I should let everyone know that Logbook of the World, I tend to lose my mouse sometimes. Logbook of the World is free to use. You do not have to be an ARRL member. If you want to start making your contacts today and you're not ready to send the money into the league, you can start using it now. The only limitation you have is you can't apply for any kind of awards until you do pay for it. And along with that free kind of idea is I have a free QRZ. You know, there is the paid version. I haven't stepped up to the plate yet, but on your logbook, which is over here where your call sign is, you go down to hit logbook, and then you can go, push the button. You can go over here to settings, and in settings, down here, there is a button that says import, and this is a free import. And you can see some of these other features are grayed out, or they won't work because you need to pay for QRZ. So if you want to be able to use Logbook of the World and QRZ, you can successfully do all of that for free. So you hit import and it brings everything in, and then you can go to your logbook. It has all the logs that you've ever made, and then they have an awards tab, and you can go in and apply for different awards. And so I am almost there, except I'm missing New Hampshire. New Hampshire is the only... You know what, Jim? You're not able to see what I'm doing, but that's okay. You know what's going on. I just realized I'm not sharing my screen with Jim. But okay. But yeah, so I just wanted to share that out because I think that's really neat. And you can see all those other awards there as well. That I'm getting close. Let's see the continents. How close am I? I think I'm missing. Oh, I technically have all the continents. Oh, look at that. Well, there we go. Congratulations. I just got Africa. I think I got Cameron Islands the other night on FT8. And so it says congratulations, and I can apply now. And yeah, and I can, I'll do that a little bit later. Well, awesome. Alrighty, so let me switch this.
You know, you mentioned Hiram Percy Maxim.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, that guy was a Renaissance man. He was a cool cat. That guy, he did a little bit of everything. He liked to kind of dress up kind of snazzy. He had so much fun as a radio operator. People called him the old man, even before he was old. He collected really fancy cars back in the day. He invented new kinds of silencers for guns. Uh-huh. His father invented the Maxim machine gun, so it was pretty good. They were interesting. Anyway, he was. If you look at his whole life story, it was absolutely fascinating. The guy was, and if it was cool, he was into it.
Yeah. Well, that's neat. I could only imagine what times were like back then, getting your license, getting on the air. For that matter, the cost of some of the equipment, that seemed extremely challenging. I mean, look at us now. For $30 or $25, you can buy a Bofang, jump on the local repeater, obviously have a license, but take it online. I mean, if you're not licensed yet and you're watching this and you're scratching your head, there is some great resources. Let's see, hamstudyorg. I should probably just say that right now. I can bring that up and let me switch it over there. So yeah, while I talk about it, I like to show things that I talk about. Hamstudy.org. This is the place to go. There might be others, but this is the one that I've heard, the best things about. But whether you want to take your initial test or upgrade. Check those guys out. And they're also a part of Signal Stick. If you see up there, Signal Stick, some really cool little antennas for HTs. All right. So let me ask you this. So how long have you been in your role right now with the ARRL?
I think just went on 3 years.
Okay.
3 years.
And how does someone get that position?
You run for it. It's a kind of a political office. You run for it. In my particular case, it was uncontested. No one ran against me. The prior section manager did a phenomenal job. Jim Latham, AF6AQ. He did a really nice job, and he did it for over a decade. And anyway, he wanted to step back a little bit. That was a good long time to contribute to our organization. And so I was reading, actually, I think in QST that, or maybe in his monthly newsletter, that he's like, well, I'm stepping back, and I actually my term has expired, and I'm just filling in here. So I said, well, geez Louise, I said, I know so many people through Pacificon, being affiliated with Pacificon, chairing that for a number of years, and being involved on different aspects of that. I said, I love this community. I know most of the club presidents and this sort of thing. So I said, someone has to do it. If no one's going to do it, I'm just going to step up. Did I think I was going to be the best at it? No, but someone needed to do it, and it wasn't going to get filled, I figured. So I stepped up, and so far it's worked out really well.
Yeah, heck yeah. I think you're doing a fantastic job. I did not know the previous gentleman, and I've been a part of Field Day for the last 3 or 4 years, and I see you every year out there coming on out to our little cow town, Vacaville. And you even have to cross a bridge that cost $6 or $7 to come see us. So hopefully the league,
I swim for you.
Hopefully the league gives you a voucher on that. I also wanted to share out a website if those who are watching and local. I get it if you're across the U.S. or watching this later. Our small section here in Northern California is not going to mean too much to you, but I do encourage you to go find your website or maybe your Facebook group for your section. And the website I see here is ARRL Eastbay.org. So there is a functioning website. So if you want to go here, get some more information, contact Jim, ask him questions. For that matter, I'm guessing you probably welcome anyone that wants to be involved and get more involved with this section here.
Absolutely. No, yeah. Believe me, I get calls all the time, and I don't start off the conversation. In fact, it never comes up, are you a member of the league? That's not the question. The question is, this is where you're at, where do you want to go, and how can I help you get there?
Yeah.
And that's all it's about. There are so many aspects of this hobby, but a big part of this hobby is Elmering. And so I'm really just kind of Elmering. If nothing else, I'm just utilizing my Rolodex to try to help people. There's an old term that we don't use anymore, Rolodex. Sorry.
Maybe I should maybe show a picture of that for individuals that don't know what that is. Huh?
Exactly. A couple of more years, people will just be staring at me going, what's this guy talking about? Must be very high tech, I guess.
Well, I guess it goes with that Netscape coffee mug people are commenting on.
Yes, exactly.
My goodness. Yeah, that's one thing.
I'm running the latest version, so that's probably why I'm not glitching. That's good. Huh?
Yeah, I believe at some point, being an amateur radio operator, you're trained, and you're not even aware that you're being trained, but you're trained to start keeping things forever. And my wife is already yelling at me for it. More and more things are showing up. For that matter, other hams, and that's the other great thing, being a part of a club, a group, so much gets given to you or next to nothing. And before you know it, you got a bench full of gear, and it's a great situation because then your wife can't keep up what you got for free and what you bought recently.
Yeah, you know what they say? Ham's greatest fear is?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. I know.
that their wife will once they die, that their wife will sell all their gear for what they told her they paid for it.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. Someone's going to be getting this Yaesu FT-991A for $200.
Yeah, that's what I paid. I'm pretty sure. Yep, that's what I remember. Yeah.
Too funny.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, so another thing I just want to touch on, I don't want to go too deep dive, but I think it's very important with, all the craziness out there, is the ARRL is also part of some emergency services known as ARRL. But then there's also other branches that are not related, but also very important, and that would be the FCC runs RACES, and then in some cases, you're going to have the OES, which is Office of Emergency Services, and that's typically tied to your local sheriff's department. What kind of things can you tell us with any of those groups? Have you been involved before?
Absolutely. No, amateur radio is ideal for helping facilitate emergency communication, right? It augments what is already out there, and when it breaks down, it really fills in the gaps. And so you got this ready crew of men and women that go out and support all sorts of different endeavors. It could be search and rescue operations that go on all the time. Might not be really a disaster per se, but you might have a lost child, or you might have a dive team that's going out and it's dark and they need to move assets around and stuff like that. It could be a fire watch. It could be a weather watch. Storm spotters through NOAA. It could be it just goes on and on. So the deal is that it could be OES at your county level, but it could also be down to your city level. It could be a CERT group that you're supporting, right? A lot of cities have CERT. I don't. Does your city have CERT?
Yes, they do. I'm not involved, but another growing program that has really taken off in our area and the other local counties here is a CART, and that stands for Community Animal Rescue Team.
Absolutely.
And a quick story on that, they slowly put themselves together, kind of self-organized through a Facebook group, I want to say 3 or 4 years now, and then they quickly realized they can't deploy as a group without being a part of some kind of organization. And this is very true with ham radio, because once you have police and you have fire and they put up the tape and they shut down and evacuate, you can't just go across those police lines. So you then have to figure out how to become part of a larger group or an agency. And for us, that's with the OES. So this CART group became part of the OES. They do background checks. You essentially become kind of like a sworn-in auxiliary unit. And at that point, they then can go in and rescue animals. That was their intention and goal, is to rescue all sorts of animals, from chickens to goats to cows to horses, all sorts of living life that don't know how to drive a car, or for that matter, some people buy these animals out in the country and they don't have means to transport all of them. And when there's a disaster, you want to get all of them as soon as you can. And so they quickly realized, they're just going down there, checking the boxes, organizing as a group. And the last box they came to was communication. And they were trying to run this organization, this group, dispatching. So they would have a headquarters set up somewhere, and they would make phone calls, and they would have maps on the wall, and they would realize it was a terrible game of telephone tree. And so that quickly led them down to first try FRS radios, did not get very far, and then eventually finding amateur radio. And then that is where we became extremely involved, because they came to us for help. We kind of mentored, we Elmered, they all got their license. And I want to say there's about 8 of them now that have joined our club. They're a big part of it. They're involved in a lot of things we do. They constantly go out and they train. And when they train, they're not just loading animals, but they're setting up antennas and they're playing a little bit of radio, which, that's pretty exciting. And for me, I'm looking forward to getting involved when my kids get a little bit older. My oldest one is 9, because I think she would just get a real kick out of saving all these farm animals, And I think that's a really neat little niche to get into. whether by yourself or even with your family. And
Right on. I agree.
and you know, and when you get to go play radio too, which we all love, and you know, probably so many of us right here hanging out with us can contribute our knowledge.
Can I ask you a question on that? Have you been involved with your off-roading in kart or dart?
So my story on that quickly is I was a president of Off-Road Club here in Vacaville for 7 years. Got a new job, got a haircut. No, I'm kidding. My job was commuting an hour away, and then my wife and I got married, had 2 little kids, and so I took about a 6 or 7 year break from the off-road community, and just recently bought another Jeep that some people might know of or be aware of. So my Jeeping days are just starting back up. So let me get back to you on that one.
Oh, beautiful. Okay.
Yeah. But I tell you, ham radios and Jeeps, that's a lot of fun. Look out.
Absolutely.
When I'm in the Jeep, I'm pinging APRS typically, so take a look out for that. Well, very cool.
Okay, with kart and dart and different organizations, Cal 4 Wheel even really got behind it when we had some of those big fires up in the Lake County a few years ago, before these latest ones with Sonoma and Napa and whatnot. Really early on, they went nuts. I remember we had there was a big fire up by Yosemite, simultaneously the big fire that was going around Lake County, and it was burning up ranches and farms, and off-roaders were going out there utilizing amateur radio, and they were bringing horse trailers and scooping up all sorts of animals and corralling them and everything, and it was all coordinated. It was so well coordinated. They would just break up everything into grids on a map. They'd pull along. They would use a crossband repeater in a mobile vehicle. People would go out there with HTs. They could talk back that would repeat out to a repeater somewhere. And they were linking this all up. There was no cell service out there because the cell towers had burned down, and it just worked out just phenomenally well. Or they were in such remote areas that there just wasn't cell service. There was just cows and horses, and so that worked out great. That's a great example. Honestly, people don't even think about that, but that's huge, right? That's huge.
It really is. Yeah, and there's so many avenues to go down. As far as being in a club, being in a large group such as the ARRL. And all the things you can do with your hobbies, whether you're on 4 wheels, on a motorcycle, in a boat, etc. But, we're heading towards kind of the end of this little chat here. But I do want to learn a little bit about yourself. I think it's always fun to hear how people got started. So, how old were you when you got licensed, and what kind of got you into that?
I got a license about 12 years ago.
Okay.
And what had happened, what had happened, it has to do with off-roading.
All right.
It was the weekend before Memorial Day weekend. And I went with 2 good friends of mine. We went up to the Rubicon, and we were pre-running the Rubicon on dual sport motorcycles to find a good camping spot to go in, to bring in, the Jeeps and the families and all the camping gear for the long weekend. And so the 3 of us go out there, and it was kind of a warm day, and we were going across a kind of a large river crossing. The river was kind of swollen because it was very early in the season. This is a week before Memorial Day, so it's very early in the season. And I am a terrible dirt bike rider, awful, the worst. I'm a pretty good Jeeper, honestly. I don't want to be braggadocious here in any way, shape, or form, but I have more mad skills that way. I have no mad skills on a motorcycle. I probably ought not be ever on one, but there I am. So the 3 of us are out there in the middle of nowhere. We're going across a big river crossing on the Rubicon, and my buddy, who's a very good rider, he's halfway across, and he just stops and just falls over sideways into the river.
Oh.
And just kind of lays there. And I don't go into the river until he's getting out. And so I go, and then I see it's a problem. So I put my bike on the stand, and I go running out in the middle of this river, and I help him up. And And then he just kind of wanders off onto the far side of the river on the other side. And he says, I'm tired. And I go, uh-oh, we got ourselves a little issue here. So I get his bike up out of the water. It was totally submerged, and wheel it across. And I go, hey, buddy, what's going on? What can I do? And he goes, I'm just tired. I just want to lay down for a while. And he crawls into a fetal position and goes underneath some manzanita and says, I want to sleep for a while.
Oh, boy.
And we go, okay, we got a problem here. So my other buddy comes along, and we realize that there's probably some sort of cardiac problem going on with our friend. So we give him some baby aspirin, and I get on my bike, and I go out as fast as I can back to the truck that we brought these 3 bikes in, a big dually Dodge pickup truck. And I go back about, 8 miles or so. I grab the dually, and I fly back about 80 miles an hour on the Rubicon with a dually pickup truck. But I felt a lot more comfortable with that, frankly, than on the dirt bike. So that was cool. We scoop up our friend, and we start getting him out. We're just trying to take care of him, make him comfortable and whatnot. And we lay down the rear seat, make it like into a bed. And we have to drive about 2 hours till we get to a spot that like a resort. And so I pull in there, and I said, hey, do you have a phone? And they said, no, we don't have a phone, but it's not a problem. We put the kid onto an ATV, and we send the kid up onto a mountaintop, and then he uses a Forest Service radio, and then he can ask for help. We go, okay, I think we need to do that. So we do that. And so it just so happens this gentleman in his Hawaiian shirt with his wife and daughter, he jumps up and says, hi, my name's Bill. Maybe I could be of assistance. I'm the captain in charge of paramedics for the Sacramento Fire Department. Maybe I could be of assistance. And I said, maybe you could. So anyway, he goes and helps my friend, and he checks them all out and everything. And then he takes us aside and says, are you guys good at CPR? Because I think you're going to be really good at it by the end of this day. And we go, okay. So we got some issues here. So anyway, so it's still another hour out or something before, things start happening. Fire trucks are coming and all this kind of stuff. And then eventually but we're still miles and miles up Ice House Road off of Highway 50. We're a long ways from getting to any help. Finally, out of Reno, a helicopter shows up and scoops him up and takes him out to, and they want to just send him to Placerville or something. And ultimately, they sent him to a really good hospital. And he ended up having an aneurysm on his aorta about the size of my thumb. Burst. It didn't burst, but that's just by the luck of goodness, I tell you.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. Anyway, they took care of him, and he's healed up, and everything's all good and fine. But the deal was, all 3 of us realized at that moment, that day, that we needed better form of communication. Cellulars didn't work, CB didn't work, nothing worked. But had we had amateur radio, we could have called directly at that moment. We could have had the helicopter come directly to where we were at. And we could have, made a difference. But just by luck, my friend recovered. But all 3 of us are all licensed up. From that, the Jeep Club that we belong to, the Diablo four-wheelers, ended up now licensing over 70 people.
Whoa.
Over 70 people. And so that makes me proud. But that was my genesis. But I got to tell you, I love pushing buttons. I like building things.
Yeah.
I like experimenting. I do ATV. I do the digital stuff. I love HF. I love contesting. I love it all. And I love the people in this hobby. I love the technical people that you meet. Unbelievable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's how it all came to pass. And it's
excellent.
It's been a dream since then.
And then I recently learned a little bit more about yourself as well. So you said just a moment ago you love to build things. So then what I'm going to ask you about next is tell me about Elk Antenna for those that are not aware.
Okay, so my little daytime job also, I would say it actually is about 50-50 with being a section manager, but my daytime job that helps me put a little bit of food on the table is I build log periodic dipole array antennas. These are VHF, UHF antennas, and they're portable, and build them right here in America with American-made gear and materials, and so I've been doing that for about a decade now, just about 1 year or about 10 years. But it was a company that was created by two of my good friends, Pete Parada, K6SHE, and Ray Gash, AG6SI. They kind of created this antenna and built it and modified it many times. And then since I've got it, I've changed it probably about 5 times. Anyway, they go out all over the world. They're operating on every single continent right now, even Antarctica.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I need to tell Santa to get one of those in the sleigh for me. Because one thing that I'm extremely curious about, and I don't know how many people out there are working satellites, but satellites, watching a few videos and hearing some guys on the repeater work satellites, that seems very cool. And you're really not going to do that with some kind of mag mount or vertical. You're going to want something just like this, just like an Elk antenna, especially if you have to deal with a 2 meter or a 70 centimeter up and down, if you want to work the ISS repeater or something of that nature.
That's all true. You need, and this is not a commercial, so I'll tell you, any good gain dual band antenna, it's directional is useful, because the deal is with an HT with a rubber duck, you can work, with this, you could work satellites if the satellite is over your head, not an issue. Right. Because there's no trees between you and the satellite to block that signal. Okay. You're going to do just fine. But here's the thing is that folks that really want to excel at doing satellite work, they want to get that satellite as far down in the horizon, from horizon to horizon as they can. So they want to have the longest passes that they can. Yeah. They want to be able to make the most contacts and also the greatest distance.
And I've noticed too, there's a pileup. So you got to wedge yourself in there. And I'm guessing on a rubber duck, you're going to be a weak station.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm just letting people know, that I've not tried this before. So, yeah, well, very, very cool. Yeah, so we'll be talking more about that. I think it's super interesting. I had a chance to visit Jim just this week to grab some of these very cool awards and prizes for my local club. And it was really neat seeing a guy. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but he's living the dream, right? He's a part of the league. He has a business that is all about building antennas. And I noticed he had a few radios in his shop just there. He was listening to ham radio all day while he works. So how cool is that? I mean, that sounds like a good, goal. Maybe in a couple years I can stop the daily grind for the man.
There you go.
Figure something fun out like that.
Absolutely.
Well, do you have any final thoughts or comments? One thing I am kind of curious of is, let's say you just jumped inside of an elevator. What is your elevator pitch to someone that is asking you, what is ham radio?
I don't know if it's the elevator pitch, but it's the what isn't ham radio. It's ham radio is a lot of is so many different things, right? We've talked about MCOM. We've talked about building. We talked, the maker community and that kind of stuff. That's really all ham radio. The remote control, radio controlled devices, amateur radio. It's helping your community in emergency communication. It's about working with you. It's about contesting. The longest contests, the longest distance contacts, the most countries and states and grid squares worked. It's amateur television. It's the digital modes.
Yeah.
It's FM. It's AM.
Yeah. So many things. And the biggest thing that sticks out to me is it's really hard to find a bad ham. I mean they're out there, but it seems that we're just all so generous. We just want to share the hobby. We want to use the hobby. And as you mentioned, there's so many roads, avenues to go down and explore.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, come on. I mean, like when you're a remarkable ham, honestly. You really are. And also you've done something for the league. You're a PIO. and that's in a very important position. I mean, if everything is good, then you're a PIO and you get to exclaim the virtues of amateur radio to the world. When things are bad, you might have to say, "Hey, listen, these are what hams are doing to help save our bacon today."
Mm-hmm.
Hams are deployed in these regions doing this important work to support fire efforts or different first responders efforts. And that's a role that you took on, and I greatly appreciate.
Yeah.
That you stepped up and did that. But you're a natural communicator, so that's a phenomenal thing.
Excellent.
Anyway.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I don't. We could as hams, we could definitely sit here and keep chatting, but I think we're going to be wrapping it up. I've got a lot of future ideas for the future. We spoke a little bit about how to better communicate to some of our people here in our East Bay. For that matter, I definitely want to experiment with some of those Elk antennas and capture that on video, working some satellites. That seems a lot of fun. So I think we're going to be seeing Jim again. So with that, I'll tap my little outro music, and I'll thank you everyone for coming out here and joining us on this chat with Jim. Jim, thank you so much. Have a good evening, and I'm gonna end the YouTube, but you don't have to hang up just yet. So you can say 73 to everyone.
7-3, everyone. Have a great evening and happy holidays.
Yes, that's true. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. That is
yeah, that's right.
A week away almost. So
you believe that Santa's going to be coming. I hope you've all been good little boys and girl hams.
It's too late now.
It's too late. There you go.
All right, guys, have a good one. See ya. All right. So